East Hampton Town Board, we are live.
Great, thank you, LTV. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Board work session of Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. Carol, if you could please read the roll call.
Member Flight.
Present.
Councilmember Lease.
Present remotely.
Member Rogers. Councilmember Calder Piedmont.
Present.
Supervisor Burke Gonzalez.
Present. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we made it, another season in the rearview mirror here. Today's meeting starts with the public portion. We ask folks to kindly keep their comments to 3 minutes. And then we have 4 work session topics. We're going to get a update from Jeannie Carrozza, our senior purchasing agent on bids. The interim executive director, Judge Gladstone, is here to present LTV's 2024 annual audit. There'll be a discussion of the ADU construction assistance program led by Joanne Pilgrim, and then an update on piping plovers with Samantha Schur. That will be followed by liaison reports and resolutions. So Carol, is anybody signed up? Jason, is there anyone on the line?
We have no one on the phone lines right now. No.
Okay.
And if it's okay, can I just let me just double check the phone line just to make absolutely sure.
Hello, everyone. This is Jason Nauer calling from LTV just to show that the phone lines are up and operational, and we currently have no callers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. All right, so we're going to move on to topics. Jeannie, you're up first.
Good morning. All right, just a couple of things this morning. The first is sanitation garage mold remediation. Renewed contracting and restoration is the apparent low bidder for that one at the amount of $58,700. And then several notices coming up, first being the Ditch Plains Dune restoration and the Lions Field soccer goals, which are available this Thursday. And next week, we have sanitation scale improvements and printing of miscellaneous forms. And that will be it.
Okay, questions for Jeannie?
No. Okay, Jean.
No, we're good. Thanks, Jeannie. All right, we're cruising right along here. Now we have Josh Gladstone. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the board for having me here as a representative of LTV. I'm here to present the 2024 report as drafted by my predecessor, Michael Clark. As we begin, I just want to take my hat off and acknowledge 2 people. Fraser Doherty, the founder of LTV, who recently passed about 2 years ago now, but who founded LTV with a visionary concept of free cable communication access, civic engagement for the community, by the community, as a platform for communication, education, transparency in government. It was a noble vision. He was a gadfly and a bit of a lunatic, and also a brilliant man. And we're honored to continue the legacy 40 years later. And I'm also taking my hat off to Michael Clark, the executive director, who retired for personal reasons on July 18th after 6 years of excellent service to LTV and to the community. And I want to acknowledge publicly that he was a friend and a colleague and a champion to many organizations in the community, to many citizens of the community. He truly upheld Fraser's vision, and he has expanded LTV to a place of strength and vibrancy and vitality that we find ourselves in today. So I want to acknowledge Michael and thank him. He brought me on board in the fall of 23, and I've been there as the creative director for the past basically 2 years. I'm pleased to serve as the interim executive director, and I know the board is currently in the midst of a search process to find Mike's, the next executive director, I'd be happy to be considered for the position, but we'll see what the board of LTV decides. So with that in mind, I will move to the presentation of the 2024 annual report. If we can see it on the screen here. And thanks also to the hardworking staff. You heard the disembodied voice of Jason Nauer, who you know well, and Jason spearheads the team that has done so much work for the community, both in broadcast as well as in making these government meetings happen at the village level and at the town level. So the next slide, please, and I'll take us through. So the mission, as I mentioned, it's LTV, we provide a free speech television and media platform to share all manner of public communication, education, and creative expression within our community and the world at large. And we do have a reach beyond the community, and we do have a reach to broadcast and share what happens in this special community with the world beyond. Our YouTube channel is thriving. Our purpose, to allocate channel space and time to channels 24/7, currently on channels 1300 and 1310. It's a whole other issue, which has recently come upon us, but we look forward to moving back to channel 20 and 22, where we've been serving for over 40 years. You can read about that issue in the press, thanks to Jack Motz. We allocate channel space and time to East Hampton town residents, nonprofit organizations with whom we partner throughout the year, educators. We have a vibrant connection with the school, and we're building upon that thanks to Chrissy Sampson, who has joined our team as an educator and communication outreach, also developing a East End News, hyper-local news division at LTV, which is something new that she and Mike came up with. We provide channel space to governmental bodies to cablecast their programs. We record and live broadcast the meetings of the East Hampton Town, the East Hampton Village Boards, the zoning boards, the review boards, the East Hampton trustees. We broadcast the school boards. So LTV is embedded in the vital activity of this community and the community governance. We provide event and performance space at our slightly dilapidated but spirited studios out in Wainscott. We provide performance space for community theater, for artists of all ages, from all walks of life, from all disciplines, fine artists who are exhibiting on the walls of the least known gallery in East Hampton, but one that we are developing right now, for emerging artists, for fine artists, for video artists. We have our Studio 3 space that we're using for performances, from everybody from the South Fork Performing Arts and the Variety Show and young school kids who perform with those groups, all the way up to world-class artists like Marilyn May, 97 years old, who opened our Hampton Summer Songbook and was the most ever featured artist on Johnny Carson's show. So we're sort of a wide net that we provide, musical events, forums, lectures, and other activities. The League of Women Voters has an event coming up in 2 weeks, and that's just one of many local groups that we're partnering with this month, including OLA and several local filmmakers who are presenting. Next slide, please. The 2024 goals, which Mike presented and which we, I think, largely attained and have surpassed as we've moved into 25, to continue to ensure public access to quality content and media services that educate, inform, and enlighten, community participation encouraged in media services focused primarily on East Hampton Town. Our goal in 24 was to encourage the community to utilize the facility and the resources as a vehicle to get their messages out to the East End. And we don't edit what those messages are: free speech, forum for all. To that end, we will continue to focus on creating and implementing an awareness program to educate the community on the benefits of being involved with our not-for-profit company. And we have done that in working closely with Word Hampton, a locally based public relations firm that just moved into the village, and they've been an excellent partner in helping LTV to expand through social media, through advertising and press releases. And I think LTV has grown tremendously since Mike wrote this in 24, and now we're at the end of our 25 summer season, and we've seen a spike in attendance and use of the facility, dramatic spike. Our goals: production, to focus and support the production of formal and informal public access content, our financial situation to secure sponsorships, underwriters, and grants, which we've done so and continue to do so. Our technical and infrastructure, we have developed a 10-year capital plan. And we are modernizing. You can see that even now in this meeting as Jason remotely broadcasts this meeting across the community, and that has expanded into work that we've done with Montauk and with the Playhouse there, and also we are doing work with Southampton. We're recognized as a technological leader in the area of media and broadcast. And we continue to improve. We're streamlining and adjusting the workflow, avoiding repetitious work, trying to take advantage of time and opportunity for our very young and engaged staff so that they can maximize their efforts in covering the town. I think they're going to be at Main Beach tonight, in fact, although I don't know if anybody else will be there. Okay, next page, please. You can take a look at production results. And again, this is a year old. Public access studio shows, 369. 212 government meetings, 36 school board meetings, 19 community events, 32 community theater events, 37 production workshops, 49 produced events, which ranged everything from film screenings to theatrical events, commercial rentals. So we made ourselves available both to local community groups as well as looking at a revenue stream for out-of-town production, commercial rentals to come and use our facilities, which are unique to the area. We've had last year 9 art openings, 36 events filmed off-site by our crew, educational forums, film screenings, and then there's all kinds of details about 50 shows that we did as part of our performance series. Last year, we did another 50 or so this year. Next slide, please. Community support. We provided full installation or installation support with broadcasting systems for the town, the Montauk Library Meeting Room, the East Hampton Village installation, East Hampton Village Emergency Services building in order for the village to resume government meetings at their location last year. They've since gotten back to their own space. The Town of Southampton Broadcast System Initiative, we've been assisting them, and the Montauk Playhouse, which just opened, we were a consultant for them as well. And I want to point out at the bottom of the page, I think an important point, maybe it's the next slide. How is LTV funded? Not with taxpayer dollars. It is funded by Altice and the grant that they have been mandated by the FCC to pay the municipality of East Hampton. And we just had a great meeting. Thank you, Kathy Burke-Gonzalez, for meeting with us last week, where we discussed 2026 allocation from this franchise fee, and we look forward to continuing to work in partnership with the town thanks to this FCC mandate. The equipment that we purchase every year also supported largely by this outside commercial grant. You can see our financial position for 2024 was solid. We're basically operating pretty much at cost at $1.1 million. 83% of that goes to programming. That means that we're not paying staff, we're not paying costs that are not related to our mission to be of service for the community with programming, and that's where 83% of our money goes to. And we're expanding upon that too. And then finally, there's a lovely summation here at the end. LTV's importance to the East End, as outlined by Fraser, I mentioned, by the people, for the people. We have more shows per week than any other public access station on Long Island. That's a point of pride for LTV and hopefully for the community. We are belonging to the people of the town. Thanks to the founders, the board, and the forward-thinking East Hampton Town and Village, countless producers and volunteers, which are a big part of our operation right now. We do today what we promised to do 40 years ago in providing community access and 2 television channels, which the community can connect to for creativity and information. We have an archive. There's over 25,000 tapes created by the people of East Hampton, ranging from serious debate to the eccentric and experimental. can attest to that. These tapes document a 40-year lifespan of the town, and we are in partnership still with the East Hampton Library in digitizing this archive so that it is available to all in perpetuity. Our longtime archivist, Jeannie Henderson, and I are meeting this week to review the next steps in the library partnership. And again, an important resource for the living history of our community. We have our website, ltveh.org, that is live streaming. All the programs that are on LTV can be found on our website. Everything is transparent. The government meetings can be found on the website. You can go back and see issues that may concern you dating back a number of years. And we have a YouTube channel as well. We continue to have space available in Studio 3 for debates, public forums, films, and performances. A lot of this content has gone on. So if you can't make it to LTV during the season to see a show, we have the double advantage of broadcasting those shows for the community for free. So you can catch up on all of that. So that's the presentation for 24. We look forward to continuing to serve with you and for you. And I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. I'll try to answer them in my 1-month tenure as interim exec.
Yeah, I'll kick off. Firstly, thank you to LTV. I mean, I like you said, taken part in many kind of wide-ranging events going on there, and it's incredibly helpful. I think for me, one of the primary goals for your organization is as a news service provider, covering town board meetings, etc. You know, you have the money coming in from the FTC. Do you see that as a potential liability in the future? You know, where do you guys stand on that position? And what's the backup plan if that does happen?
Well, it's a huge question. We are in negotiations. Actually, the town is in negotiations with Altice, the cable company, through an attorney that is based out of Pittsburgh, and we were brought in on a meeting with them. There is a plan afoot for continued involvement with Altice, and that this law will stay in place, and that LTV is poised, and the town is poised to receive continued funding at least for the next few years. And that's being negotiated what the amount is. I think it's based on a percentage that's passed on to the cable viewer. And I believe right now Altice has come back to us with 60 cents of every cable subscriber's bill goes to fund this ongoing grant. We are going back to them and asking for 99 cents. We'll probably land somewhere in the 75 cents range, we hope, but that will continue to provide a fund at least for the next, I think the contract is 3 to 5 years. Although what's happening is, even though the rate to subscribers may be going up by pennies, the number of subscribers to cable is going down. And that's just as the market dictates. People are more and more pulling the plug on cable and switching to streaming. So we're painfully aware of that. And we are doing everything we can right now to expand LTV's revenue stream into areas of other production services. We are working to rent out the 6 studio spaces that we have. We just did private shoots for a number of high-end clients that came in and really appreciated the access to the excellent internet service that we have, to the lighting and camera services, and the knowledgeable production staff that we have. They paid us a commercial rate for the use of these services. We have office spaces that we are renting out to local businesses, as well as to other cable franchises. We have the Cuomo Show has been renting out a studio for the last year or two, and they're going to continue to be taping from there. We're looking to expand that as a regular ongoing offering to other area broadcasters that can then base themselves at LTV. So we hope that will make up some of the difference. We're continuing to expand our performing arts series. Ticketing revenue has been strong. Underwriting for the performing arts has been strong. The building's not going anywhere, even though it's a little falling apart, and we're working to repair the roof right now. But we hope that some of these new avenues will make up for what we forecast to be a loss in revenue in the years ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, keep us, obviously updated on where you are with that one. The revenue streams, I think, are one kind of critical aspect. I acknowledge that we don't have access to viewing numbers for the cable subscribers, but we do have some insight into the number of people viewing it through YouTube, et cetera. Do we know what those numbers are, and is there any way to potentially monetize that viewing as well?
Unfortunately, my understanding is that we can't get numbers from LTs on viewership for the PEG channels, the public access channels, but we can get a sense of what our hits are on YouTube at ranges. Some of our shows have a few thousand hits. I think the highest one maybe 6,000 or 7,000. And then they range anywhere averaging from 200 to 1,000 hits. I think we need a lot more hits to monetize it with YouTube to get advertising revenue. We hope that we'll start to expand that with our East End News channel. We're hoping that we're going to become much more known as a resource for hyperlocal news, and that will expand on the internet our clicks. We have a number of young, very social media savvy employees at LTV, and what I have said to them in the last month is that I empower you all to be producers, to be content makers, to use the resources of this facility to go out and generate shows and content for TikTok and for Instagram and Facebook. Let's see if we can generate revenue content. No idea is too wild. Get out there. They want to hit the streets. They want to talk to members of the community. They want to cover sporting events. They want to be all over East Hampton. This is a hungry young group, and I think they have the opportunity to do it. So even as our cable broadcast diminishes, I'm hoping that we can expand our usefulness as a social media content.
Thank you.
Yeah, Josh, I just want to say thank you. I'm a longtime fan of LTV. I love what LTV has done from, ever since I've known about LTV. Public access and the government meetings are obviously at your core. And I think it's a huge asset to the community that you're out there doing that. But I've also, and in full disclosure, I was on the board of LTV many years ago. And I've seen you grow. Since my time there, you've done so many good things. You're being creative with the way you use spaces, I think, podcasts, different types of media. And it's a big building where there weren't, not every space was for studio space or being used fully. And I see you continue to expand and provide more access of different types to, all members of the community. Also, the community and cultural events that happen there are a great way to bring people in. And I'm very excited for the future. And I love what you guys are doing, the news channel that you mentioned. And I think that what ties into all of that is that you have a staff that are really passionate about what they do. And when I was on the board, it was mostly different crew, but it was the same. As a community organization that's trying to bring people together, I think it really shows in the people who run it. And I've met some of your more recent staff, and I think that you have a real passion there that feels very appropriate for our community. And I'm just grateful for all that you do. And I'm honored to be your liaison and want to support you however I can.
Thank you. And thank you for your very recent help with our financial picture. Thank you for that.
David, did you want to make any comment? I don't know if David's still there.
I am here. I think a lot of stuff comes down to LTV for me is, look at me here. I'm working remotely right now, not feeling so well. This wouldn't have been done unless actually maybe COVID. And at that time, leadership at LTV, while there might have been other individuals says we can't do this, the leadership at LTV and your staff said, we can do this. Just give us a moment. We'll figure it out. And you did it so admirably to keep government flowing at that time, and you continue to do so. So as I sit here remotely, not feeling so great, getting better, it's just a proof in the empowerment of what you have over there and what I hope you can continue to do. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And I agree with my colleagues. I did have the pleasure of seeing Jeannie Henderson. She does these short films editing from the 25,000 tapes that are, libraried and stored there. And I had said at the time, I would love to have her come back and maybe she could put something together. I think she's got some really old town board meetings that I think would be a lot of fun to, a couple of minute piece that we could screen here to just demonstrate the power and the depth of LTV.
Done.
So if you want to talk to her about that.
I'm meeting her
great,
this
Josh.
week and
And
bring it up.
2 years ago, when you were hired to be the creative development director, was really exciting. And, you with Michael have really taken LTV to places. And thank you for all you do for our community.
Thank you.
One
If you
second.
need a letter of recommendation, we're here.
My apologies. Before you go, pardon me. May I just respond to Councilman Flight's idea of the monetization of the YouTube channel? I just wanted to clear that up for 2 seconds, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah. The only thing that we have a problem with that is that a lot of it is produced by our own citizen producers that we put on our own YouTube channel. So us monetizing on their behalf wouldn't necessarily be okay or kind of tricky. But we do a bunch of independent productions and small documentaries that we're doing that we're trying to submit to festivals and put out there on our own. So I just wanted to address that in a way that was fitting.
Yeah, I think you did a very good one recently on the Southern Pine Beetle, I recall. Is that correct?
Yes, it's still under production. We did one kind of big talk, and now we're doing more of a traditional documentary that's going to be pushing out there for the rest of New York State. We're trying our best. So anyway, that's just an example of it. I just wanted to make sure that was 100% clear. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I think it might be tricky because a lot of the content is government. So
Right.
Exactly.
and because of open meetings law and whatever, we have to make these shows available to the public, and it might cross some lines monetizing that. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks again, Josh.
Okay, so now we're up to our third topic, and we welcome Joanne Pilgrim, our Community Development Program Analyst, to lead the discussion on the ADU Construction Assistance Program.
And Joanne, Chelsea's running this slideshow from upstairs, so if you need her to change the slide, just let me know.
Okay,
Let her
great.
know.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Joanne.
So the board is going to be discussing once again the concept of issuing construction assistance loans for people to create accessory dwelling units, which are affordable apartments essentially. We call them ADUs. Excuse me. And Chelsea, you can go to the program objective. We'll talk about why you're returning to this discussion and what has changed as we go along in this currently proposed iteration. So essentially the program objective is it's designed to create affordable rental housing for East Hampton residents by assisting homeowners with the cost of ADU construction. Next slide. The ADUs, excuse me, ADUs would be 1 or 2 bedroom apartments that are constructed on eligible residential properties, and they would provide affordable housing opportunities for moderate income tenants. Excuse me. They can be attached to an existing residence, or they can be within a detached building. And they can be added to properties that meet the East Hampton Town Code section criteria for the addition of these types of apartments. Those criteria are currently under discussion by the town board and may be changing. Currently, there's a minimum of a half-acre lot size for the addition of these types of ADUs, and the discussion is around some of the changes. One of the changes regarded that are being reviewed is to allow an attached ADU on a minimum lot size that's a little smaller at 15,000 square feet. So an ADU construction loan program would provide needed capital for property owners to add an ADU. And the next slide goes over the proposed loan program criteria. This would be a deferred payment, no interest loan of up to $100,000 coming from the East Hampton Town Community Housing Fund that would be used to help construction of an ADU. The ADU would have to be made available to rent under the Town Affordable ADU Program guidelines for a minimum of 10 years. They would be year-round rentals to eligible tenants, and that's East Hampton residents who meet income qualifications, and we'll go over that in a minute. The rent could not exceed the current affordable housing rents, which are tied to the Housing and Urban Development fair market rents. At present, 130% of the fair market rent is the maximum. And the apartments would require an annual rental permit from our Office of Housing and Community Development. The The revised criteria calls for the loans to be paid back in full upon future sale of the property. The original iteration of this program that was last discussed by the board last fall called for partial forgiveness of up to 50% of the loan after the apartment was available for rent for 10 years. And that raised some questions about possible federal tax implications, which I'll refer to a little bit later. But out of concern for that, the board decided to seek a ruling from the IRS on that question, and we're now looking at a program that may mitigate or eliminate that federal tax issue. The eligible tenants, again, would be East Hampton residents. That would be defined as current East Hampton residents, non-residents who have been an East Hampton resident within the past 5 years, or someone who works in the town of East Hampton. And the income qualifications are pursuant to what's in the Community Housing Fund state law. So the tenants must meet those income qualifications currently, and they're tied to a benchmark that has to do with Sunny Mae loan system. Currently, that's $187,440 for a one or two person household, or $218,680 for a 3 or 4 person household. And the next slide just talks about who would benefit from this. The ADUs would create safe and affordable housing opportunities for year-round East Hampton workers and residents. They can also serve as a source of income for East Hampton property owners. They can provide housing for family members of property owners who meet the tenant eligibility criteria. And the no-interest deferred payment ADU construction loan program could make it possible for more East Hampton households to add an ADU. So the previous discussions by the town board of an ADU construction loan program resulted in widespread public interest. Our office had received a number of inquiries regarding that. But as I said, following the discussion last fall, the town board decided to seek a ruling from the IRS regarding the federal tax implications for property owners recipients of ADU construction loan assistance, and that ruling is pending. The revisions are designed to mitigate or eliminate possible federal taxes due. And we had a similar ADU construction assistance program that was offered by New York State, the +1 ADU program in 2024, and that drew numerous East Hampton applicants, I think in the 80 plus range, somewhat around that, and they're able to fund 15 grants through that program. Where are we? Yep. The Community Housing Advisory Board for East Hampton endorses this program as proposed. They discussed it on July 23rd, 2025. They recommended the income restrictions on tenants, which are nonetheless required under the Community Housing Fund law. They did not recommend placing income restrictions on the property owner loan recipients. And they recommended that there be rigorous enforcement of the town code regarding use of the ADUs to ensure that that housing is serving the intended population. So questions and next steps, I'll just review the next steps, and if the board has questions. So with town board approval, we can pretty much institute an ADU construction loan program immediately and open it up for applications. The town board would have to approve a particular allocation of funding from our Community Housing Fund for this program, similar to what you did for the first-time home buyer down payment assistance loan program. And if you have any questions.
So say that again, Joanne.
So for the first-time home buyer down payment assistance loan program, the town board approved an allocation from our Community Housing Fund of $600,000. So while we could open up applications immediately, we would need the board to take the next step of deciding how much you'd like to allocate for this program in this year and pass a resolution doing so from the Community Housing Fund.
Okay. I mean, so when we first rolled out the down payment assistance, we had to do public hearings, right? And that was a $30,000 loan amount, or this is 100,000. Is it foreseen that this is going to go through public hearing? Because the timing isn't as, you're not breathing, someone's not breathing down your neck to
I
close.
think we could do it one of two ways. I think that basically to spend CH funds, there has to be a public hearing involved. And so you're right, when the first time home buyers program first started, each individual loan went to public hearing. That was cumbersome in that process. And so they budgeted a certain amount with particular criteria. And now, it can be done administratively. And so that was, I think that would eventually be the idea here. If you're more comfortable in the short term with having individual hearings for each loan, we certainly could. I would be okay with budgeting a certain amount if CHAB was, because I think we have criteria. We would know exactly what would lead to a yes, they're eligible for the loan. And so I would be okay to budget a certain amount, but open to either idea.
So has CHAB discussed how much money they were looking to?
When we previously talked about this, they had talked about $1 million, 10 loans of $100,000. They have not revisited since we have we paused this for a moment, but they would certainly weigh in on that. It's just a matter of speed. I think unless we were uncertain of the criteria or whether somebody would be eligible for a loan, but I think the way it's written, if somebody qualifies, they're going to get it almost automatically. So it would just shorten the time period.
Yeah, I would just echo your sentiments on this. I mean, it's come before the ADU committee. The million was discussed in that as well, and kind of thought that was a sensible amount of CHF funds to be allocated towards this. Fully in support of this moving forward.
Yeah, Joanne, just generally, I'm as you know, I'm very supportive of this program. I think there's a huge need for affordable housing that we've all recognized, and this is just, one extra tool. I think the success and the interest in the CDLI loans were sort of eye-opening, that a lot of people want to do this. And frankly, I think individuals and more people wanting to help to contribute to affordable housing stock is a really, really positive thing. I think we're lucky to have the CH fund that the voters voted on to, make a real effort to increase our affordable housing stock. And CHAB has been very supportive, the Community Housing Advisory Board, of using that funding for loans such as this. I think a couple of points to note. The idea of this being a loan, not a grant, would help the potential tax liability, because it can't be considered income except for maybe some small amount of interest that wasn't charged. So I think that we've de-risked that enough to move forward without putting any, applicants in an odd position with unexpected, income. The idea, I think one thing that we need to talk about is this was supposed to mirror the first-time home buyers program, where that loan is not repaid until the house sells. The logic being that we don't want somebody to do this and then get themselves in a position where they can't repay it. I think that's something we need to consider if we want to have it repayable after 10 years or after a certain period of time, at any kind of transfer of the property or just upon sale. I'm okay so long as the ADU is being used for affordable housing with all the qualification for that loan to be a loan until the time when a property sells. The idea being that when a property sells, somebody probably has some equity in that, and we can then use that money for, a new AD loan or some other affordable housing initiative. I also agree with CHAB about the income restrictions. I think the tenant obviously has to be income restricted, because that's what the definition of affordable housing is. But in terms of the owner, I don't mind if any homeowner in town, regardless of their income, wants to, build an affordable housing, an ADU unit. I'm supportive of that, and I think we want to cast a wide net and open the door for as many people as possible to help contribute to addressing this issue. And I just want to say another thing about this program that excites me and I think is nice is individuals can take things into their own hands. So we all know people who can't afford to stay here, and we all acknowledge this problem. And the town has done great things. There's nonprofits, the Housing Authority have done great things to try to address affordable housing. But the idea is that individual homeowners can, in their own place, when they meet the dimensional regulations, also help, and that we can help with loans to, give a spark to that, I think is a really, really good thing. The last part I want to mention, because it always comes up and it's really, really important, is enforcement. I think I think most people acknowledge the need for this and are supportive. We're concerned about them being misused, and I share those concerns. I think our code language is very, very strong in that it says basically if you don't have a valid permit for an ADU, which requires going to the Office of Housing and Community Development, that this would be considered an illegal apartment. So I think that our code is strong, and that if somebody decides to just rent this out as a summer rental, we have tools that we could use. Now, I think we're going to have to develop those into the contract to make sure that if we're giving loans out, it's ironclad. But I just want to acknowledge the enforcement piece, because I think that's an issue, but I'm confident that we can address it. And I don't want to let that be, I don't want a fear of enforcement to be the reason that we don't move forward, because I think this is an appropriate program.
I agree with that. Just the one piece I want us to be very clear on with, applicants as they come into this is, what is the timing with regards to the release of funds and requirements of permits, et cetera? So is it when someone submits their, building plans, et cetera, and that approval comes in, the permit comes, that's when the funds are going to be released? I think we just want to be very clear with that. I know we've run into that a little bit with CDL1, so just that's an important piece of this as well. Again, I don't think that should be a delay. I just think we need to be very clear in communicating what that is.
So can I just do a couple of hypotheticals? Because I've had some folks reach out to me about this. So let's say a couple wants to build it for their son, and he meets the criteria because he's moderate income. But a year or two later, he gets married. And now with the two salaries together, they don't meet the definition of moderate income. Are they, it's family, but are they forced then to move out and rent to a moderate income tenant?
I think it's a good point. Well, Joanne, I don't know if you have an answer.
I was just going to say that, I guess we would have to decide and sort of bake that in of what would happen, but there is a model that's in place that's used, and I'm not as familiar with the Section 8 housing voucher program, but that also has income qualifications, and they do have policies that give people a certain amount of time, I believe. If their income maxes out, they're not immediately removed. We could look at that, but again, I think the town could decide maybe if it's for a family member, it would be a different situation than if it was a regular tenant on the open market. But
and this came up with the proposed affordable multiple residence legislation as well. I think it's a really good point, because I think that we don't want to have a really hard line where somebody qualifies 1 year and the next year can't. I believe the CH law allows for people to stay if they initially qualify based on our home ownership program. And so I would propose having an AMI that's higher. We talked about 150% instead of 130, or even 180, so you can make a comfortable, in the scenario that you mentioned, somebody getting married, depending on the number of people in their household, that might actually bump up their allowance too, because more people are allowed to have more combined income. But I do think we should have some overage. I mean, at a certain point, if somebody's a millionaire, I don't know that we want them to stay forever, but I think that there should be a generous amount. So it's currently 130%. Maybe it goes, you qualify after initially qualifying at 130% AMI, you could stay up to 180 or something like that.
Yeah, I would be supportive of that concept. I mean, simply for the fact that, look, the dearth of housing doesn't just affect people at the 130. I mean, if you're at the 180 mark, you're still going to have trouble finding a rental, and certainly not going to be able to purchase a property out here. So, if we give people flexibility with regards to that, I think it's a good move.
Because that's tied to the Community Housing Fund law, I think we'd have to look at how much flexibility we could have. And it also brings up another question that benchmark, that it's 100% of the Sunny May loan program threshold for income was put in place when the community housing law was adopted several years ago. And there have been a number of instances where I've discussed with people who could have been applicants where there is that area where they're just making too much to qualify for a community housing fund program. That's a state law question that the board might want to take a look at and advocate for possible future changes for that to change over, to go up year by year a little more than it has been.
And the other thing to point out is that this is an important issue to consider, but it applies to commercial affordable apartments and any sort of rental apartments that the housing authority does. So I think that this issue is already being addressed, and Katie Casey has commented on it, that people aren't getting kicked out if their income increases slightly. And so I think we would mirror what they're doing. But if we want to put an official number on it, which I think is a good idea, I think we should work towards that at the next go around. And of course, I defer to the council attorney's office on what we can do.
I just have two comments, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, Joanne, nice to see you. I agree with Ian about the enforcement. It's one of the key factors here. I like the discussion that we just had about the income qualifiers. The only thing is, in a circumstance where where an ADU might be extinguished by the property owner that doesn't want to use it for the future, I think that should be also the trigger for the repayment of the loan too, not just on transfer the sale. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but I think we should qualify that too. Thank you.
Dave, you're absolutely right, and it is. The ADU would have to be in good standing for the loan, and it would trigger repayment if they let their permit expire, which would mean they didn't have a tenant.
Perfect. Thank you.
So Ian, are you now going to go back to CHAB and, if the board is supportive, and have them make a formal recommendation as to what the allocation should be so that we could?
I think what I would propose, I think that, we should talk to, and I think we should talk to council to make sure that everything in here is perfect. Brittany Toledano has been helping, and she is sort of new to this legislation. So there might be some minor tweaks. I think we revisit again, but no, I think we could adopt the program just to let people know that this funding is available. People could start to apply. By the time that process happens, either we could have individual public hearings for their loan or have a budget in place. But I think we could pass the details of the program ahead of having that budgeted. Because
ideally, I'd like to see it kind of run concurrently with the other code changes we're doing to ADUs,
Sure.
just to kind of open the pool of people who can, be eligible to this to a wider group.
Well, at $100,000 alone, 10 people, like you said, is $1 million. I mean, the money's that's a substantial amount of money.
But currently, as we stand with the ADU restrictions, it's only people on larger lots, typically higher income, who can build them. So as we look to potentially lower the lot size that ADU is allowed to be built on, it's enabling people potentially on lower incomes to have access to that funding as well.
Do we have an estimate of what it typically costs to do a freestanding ADU? I thought was CDLI, was that 125?
I think the
125,000?
people who submitted interest forms to CDLI was between $80,000 and
$90,000. Okay.
And also, if we're concerned about the overall budget, we could change that number. That was a number that that was thought to be reasonable for what the cost would be.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to, contribute 100% of the cost. I think it's a good number, and I think it's a good place to start. But you're right, based on the previous interest, that there will probably be 10 people who are interested pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Which would be a good thing.
I think, just in regards to that number, I mean, look, building an ADU on the town's perspective for a loan of 100,000 is probably the most economically efficient way for us to get housing into the market. Certainly when we look at other projects we've done, the dollar amount per unit is significantly higher. So this kind of public-private partnership where it is a loan and the money is eventually coming back to the town, to me, look, if it works as a model for homeowners, this is where we should be putting more and more of that money.
There was some discussion at the recent CHAB meeting about going forward for next year, actually having enough funding for this program to do more than 10 loans. I think they were supportive of actually increasing that, from what I remember.
Yeah, I think, I think that basically that satisfies the public hearing need. So if we do 10 and then we decide to do more, we could.
Sure.
And they may be. I don't think that they had anything concrete.
Right.
That would obviously be, they would give us a recommendation and ultimately up to the board how much we wanted to allocate. Because as great as the community housing fund is and as exciting it is to have that funding, it's not enough. We have a big problem and the money that comes in, and we can't spend it on everything. So we do have to be thoughtful.
Okay. So I guess you're going to take this back to the attorneys and have them.
Yeah, and to Tom's point, I hadn't thought about Tom's point, but if we are, I know that there's some changes that are close to being ready for discussion. My thought was to release this program as soon as possible to start taking applicants, but I understand what he's saying, which is if we're going to open the door to a lot of other people who might be more in need based on the size of their lots, maybe we want to do that concurrently. But in any case, I'm going to keep this moving and try to get it in a form that's ready to go. And it sounds like there's support, so I will talk to Chap at the next meeting about a formal budget recommendation for how many, what the total would be.
Great.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
Joanne. All right, Samantha Schur, come on down for your piping plover update. Welcome. I think this is your first presentation before the board?
It is.
Well, welcome. So Chelsea's running the from upstairs, so when you need her to advance the slide, you just say it and she'll do that for you.
Okay, sounds good. So first off, we have these promotional items that we were hoping to use at some of our outreach events this summer with our federal partner, but they were a little short-staffed this year and we weren't able to have it, so please have a leash and a magnet in support of the plovers.
Great.
Thank you. Awesome. Great. Here we go. Cheers.
So good morning, Supervisor and council members. My name is Samantha Schur. I'm an environmental analyst with Natural Resources, and I, along with Emily Klein, am co-managing the Plover program here in East Hampton. So our overview of the program is that in the 1980s, the town took over responsibility of the Endangered Species Program. So it was no longer under federal regulation, and we could just have partial closings of the beaches to things like beach driving and, other like recreational stuff as far as the birds go. And so we have volunteers and staff regularly monitoring the beaches throughout the week, throughout the summer between April and August to manage the birds and make sure that they're safe along with everyone being able to still enjoy the beaches. So we remove the fencing and reopen beaches once the chicks have fledged or the areas are no longer inhabited, if the birds choose to leave the area and don't have any success. So the partial closures are, instead of full closures, help protect the chicks while maintaining public access. So town law states that the East Hampton town prohibits the disturbance or endangerment of any protected bird nesting areas on the beach. No person shall alter, move, remove, or tamper with any fence, rope, flagging, or designating areas, nor should anyone permit a horse, dog, cat, and/or other animal to be inside the bird nesting areas. We also have Section 9 of the Endangered Species Act prohibits any person subject to the jurisdiction of the United States from harassing, harming, pursuing, hunting, shooting, wounding, killing, trapping, capturing, or collecting listed wildlife species. Through this act, the piping plover is protected. So essentially, the piping plover is a small white and gray shorebird. It's got orange legs. They have an orange-tipped black beak, distinctive black bands around their neck and between their eyes. So the males have a much thicker black band throughout the breeding season, and the females also have the band, but it's not as thick, which is how you can tell them apart. The fledglings don't have any of the black band, and their beaks are completely black instead of orange. So there's only about 6,000 to 8,000 piping plovers that remain in the world. They're federally threatened, but they're still New York State endangered. And as you can see on the pictures, I believe the left bird is the male, and the middle one is the female, and the fledgling is the one on the right. So a lot of people get all the shorebirds mixed up, and one of the most common mistaken as the piping plover is the sanderling, which is in the top right corner. They're normally seen in large groups along the waterline. They have a longer black beak, they're slightly larger, and they're brown. The top left picture is a killdeer, which is also commonly mistaken as a plover. They are not endangered. They have two black bands around their neck instead of the one, and they're brown and with a black beak. So The bottom left picture is a least tern, and they're similar in size to the plovers. They are also still protected. I believe they might have just left the list, but in the last few years, but they're still protected and we monitor them. So they're similar in size to the plovers. They have a black cap with a white triangle on their forehead and a yellow beak. They nest in about the same area as the plovers, just right on the beaches, and we tend to see that in areas where the tern colonies nest, the plovers have a higher success rate because the terns are quite aggressive and will dive bomb any predators. So their predators are plovers' predators. You can tell them apart as far as their nest. It's quite hard, but they only normally have 1 to 2 eggs, and their eggs are slightly longer than the plover eggs. So the plover's defense is just running in the opposite direction of their nest, or doing a broken wing, which is on the bottom right corner. And that tries to get you to just distract you from where their nest is actually. And like I said, the terns will actually dive bomb you, so you don't want to get anywhere near them. And common terns, which is the middle right picture, they're larger than least terns. They have a full black cap and an orange beak, and we also monitor for them every year as well. So typically the breeding season, the plovers arrive between the end of March and the beginning of April, and they establish their territories. By April, their pairs would have formed and their nest sites are established. Some pairs are incubating nests, which is approximately a 27-day incubation by May. And most nests are hatched by the end of the month of June. Some of the late nests and or re-nests, if the first attempt was not successful, are fledged by the mid-month of July and sometimes August. So the last young are fledged and the birds tend to leave by middle of August to start their migration south. So the map on this picture is East Hampton town. So we monitor approximately 18 miles of bay and ocean beaches, which include all the beaches within the town except for federal, state, and county-owned land. So this is not the most up-to-date map, but it's approximately every dot on there is where we had a nest this season. Along the ocean was a lot of losses, but the bay had quite a high success rate. So the typical timeline of our plover fencing and the season itself is we predict the sites every year. We have sites that we've had birds at for the last 5 years, and it's the exact same pair of birds. So at predicted sites and historical sites, we put up fencing the last week of March and the first week of April, according to federal regulation. And then as we see other plovers in areas that we haven't seen, we put up additional fencing. So they normally do scrapes, which is the top right corner. It's kind of hard to see, but that's essentially a nest without eggs in it. And sometimes they will do 10 plus just to find the perfect nesting spot. Their eggs are laid directly on the sand, often lined with rocks and shells. And they lay 1 egg every other day until the clutch is full, which is 4. As I said earlier, their incubation is 27 days after full clutch of eggs. And after they hatch, it's about 25 to 35 days before they can fly and are counted towards our productivity for the year. The fencing is taken down beginning in middle July to the end of August based on whether the sites are inactive or if they have already fledged. So our fencing and signage, we have 2 different types of signage. So when there are only nests present, we tend to have the upper portion of the beach closed down with signs that say, please don't enter dogs, vehicles, and we normally have a walk path that allows people to walk by. So once there are chicks involved, they are very precocial, and they will walk in tire tracks, get stuck in tire tracks. They will walk from the top of the dune to the water line and just right up to the water. So that area is completely closed off to dogs and vehicles. They often are camouflaged, so you can't even see them, and sometimes we have trouble seeing them. So if we can't see them, we assume that other people can't see them. And the length of the fencing is based on their plover movements and whether or not they're successful. Timing of the fencing is based on clutch completion, dates. We normally put up the extended fencing for no vehicles a few days before their hatch date, so that if they're gonna hatch over the weekend, we know that they're at least protected. And if the pair is successful on their first nesting attempt, the beach access will open much sooner, especially at sites with only one pair. So every year, our data includes GIS plotting with the map, like I showed earlier. So that helps us determine if nests are a new pair, or sometimes if they're not successful, there's, you know, a second nest or even a third nest, and we can see if it's a renest or if it's a completely different pair of birds. Same with every year, they tend to nest in the same spot. So at Little Alberts, they nested in like the exact same spot from the dune, everything as last year. So that was really cool to see that they can actually just remember those exact spots. So we report to the New York DEC. We do a whole nest story, which is essentially we're plotting everything that we see, vehicles, dogs, any other predators, and like the time of day we go out. We also do the Long Island Colonial Waterbird Survey. So this year we ended up doing the wading birds as well. So we did gulls, skimmers, terns, herrings, plovers, and oyster catchers. And that's super fun because we have to hit up all the beaches again in addition and count all those. And there are some places where there are a lot of terns and they're really hard to count. So we work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the ones at the Amagansett Refuge. We do a lot of work with them. We were going to do an outreach event this year that we didn't get to do. It was called Dogs and Donuts, where we essentially invite people with their dogs before, I believe 9 a.m. is when it's closed for dogs. And we'll give out donuts for people. We have dog biscuits, and we give out the leashes, magnets, and other things to help people understand why we ask for the dogs to either be on a leash or to not enter the area at all. So the data allows the town to make informed conservation decisions about the piping plovers and allow public to continue using the beaches. If successful in previous years, individual birds will return to the same nesting area. These we have seen at Sammy's, Maidstone, Little Alberts, and Indian Wells. We determine the fencing based on the previous year. So predation is one of our big struggles, and crows have been our big struggle in the past. So this year we tried new tactics where we weren't stopping along the beach because the crows will actually see our truck, remember our faces, and once we're there, we leave, they take the eggs. So we also learned that they see really well blue and green, and our flagging for nests is blue. So it's like a target. So this year we used orange flagging with pink, so it was harder for us to see, and it was harder for the crows to see. And fox was in terror this year, actually. They probably, I don't know, it could have been one fox, I don't know, but they got most of the ocean. We caught probably 5 or 6 nests being eaten by a fox this year. So they're also.
You had video of that?
We have
Samantha?
pictures, not video.
Okay.
But like that, the fox that's there on that screen, we got from one of our trail cameras. So, and he's about, the piece of grass in front of that fox is where the nest used to be. So they're also extremely smart, and I think that when we're putting up the camera traps, we're there for a few minutes longer than we normally would have been, and they smell us and can then follow our scent and find the nest. So they are also, we found this, so the picture next to the fox is a picture of the nest after a fox had been there, and it actually dug under the exclosure, which normally makes it so that the nest will hatch, but unfortunately that one did not. A lot of other, along Long Island, a lot of other towns have issues with ghost crabs and cats. Now, we don't have any problems with cats, and we don't have any specific evidence that we've lost any nests and eggs to ghost crabs, but that is a ghost crab that we found at Napeague this year, and that was the first one that we have physically seen in the field. But other townships have definitely had a large problem with ghost crabs where they'll just take one egg and walk away. And they come out at night, so you can't really stop that. So for human disturbance on the beaches, obviously trucks. So as I said earlier, chicks are mobile, and within hours of their hatch, they can walk, but it's not well. They tend to fall into the tire tracks, and they have a hard time climbing out, and it takes about 25 to 35 days before they can actually fly and defend for themselves. Dogs sometimes will chase the plovers, and sometimes they won't even mean to. They'll maybe just sniff along, step on the eggs, and they can't do anything about it. We ask that dogs stay out of the plover fencing and that they walk along the water line. We have a thing called Share the Shore with Audubon, and they have a whole bunch of outreach material that we were planning to give out as well at the Dogs and Donuts event. So we also have seen lots of garbage left behind from people, recreation on the beaches, and that includes garbage, which will then attract the fox, the crow, cats. So and that's just a picture of a balloon that I thought was funny because it's a smiley face. So, yeah. So this one, so sometimes we have nests that the same pair will have 3 different nesting attempts, and by the second or sometimes third nesting attempt, they won't have a full clutch of eggs. Their full clutch will only be 3, and this tends to happen if they're lost early in the season. And when they do re-nest, if it's lost to, say, a storm event, and they were lower, they'll go higher up in the dune, or if it's a predator and they got eaten high up in the dune, they will then nest down on the sand. So it's kind of cool how they, on their second attempt, will, change up their tactic. So if a disturbance is great enough, they will even leave the site completely and find a totally different location. And multiple pairs lost multiple clutches from the fox. So these are just some pictures of birds at different stages. So the one on the top left was just hatched, and it's can't walk yet. The one at 1 day old is still learning how to walk. That one we watched for a while, and we would watch it walk a few steps, fall to the ground, watch it walk a few steps, fall to the ground, and it was really cute. So the one on the bottom left is still fluffy. It's a few weeks old. It can't fly, but it clearly can walk, and it's much bigger. And then on the one on the right, it has the black beak and no banding, but it is a fledged chick, so it's about the size of the adult.
So all of these shots were taken here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we zoomed in. We didn't get that close, but yeah. So the trends from the last few years, 2 years ago, we had a really high success rate at 1.7, I think, or 1.4, which was pretty good. And then this year we had a success rate of 1.04, I believe. But it just shows that it goes up and down. And I think overall, with all of New York and New Jersey, we've had a decent constant success rate, but we do want a success rate of 1.5 for 5 years. So this year we had 12 pairs that nested on the ocean with 18 different nesting attempts, 7 pairs on the bay with 9 attempts, and the 2 from the bay were both lost, I believe, from a high storm event or high tide. The one that we had at Alberts was days from hatching, or a couple days from hatching before the April storm that wiped out the whole nest, but they ended up successfully fledging 1 chick. But overall, we had 9 pairs that successfully fledged 20, so our productivity was 1.04 or 5 per pair. So we ask people to help us out. If you see any plovers on the beach, by reporting plover observations to us, keeping distance from our posted areas, leashing dogs and keeping them away from the restricted areas, and carrying out the trash that you bring. So each year, we have our goals and different reporting. So the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, their criteria is 2,000 mating pairs maintained over a 5-year period. So between New York and New Jersey, there's 575 pairs approximately, and a 5-year productivity average of 1.5 chicks fledged per pair before we can move up to the list from out of endangered. So the end of the season site and pair summary forms we fill out and we submit to the DEC. We have an end of year meeting with Army Corps, and we also do a Long Island, New York City Shorebird Cooperators meeting about in January, where we do another presentation. We all talk about our problems that we've had this season together and our successes. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for
Well,
Samantha?
firstly, excellent job on your first presentation of what I think you did a really sterling job, so thank you. Yeah, I mean, my first question, just, looking through the graph and what the target is to kind of get them off the endangered species is, do you feel what we're doing is working? Number one, or do we need to look at more aggressive kind of guidelines to help protect this? Or because what I'm hearing from you is it's not just the human interaction, which is the threat. These are environmental changes from storms, natural predators that are coming in. Are there kind of practices out there that can provide additional protection from those kind of threats? Because the human action's only one part of this, and it's like we can't manage all of that. So what would your perspective on that be?
So I know that we have been doing some research. I can't remember off the top of my head what we are going to do next year, but I know we're going to buy better cameras to see if we can actually catch things as opposed to seeing it after the fact, or just seeing that there was a deer in the area, because the deers do sometimes step or eat the eggs if they come across it as well. So obviously we can't move the nests to help them from the tide or anything like that, but we're hoping to probably disclose more nests next year. And you're right, it's not all human interaction or anything. There's a lot of problems. But I think we did have a huge impact with the crows, with the extra, the pink fencing as opposed to the blue flagging, and I forget the other thing off the top of my head, but we have had a huge impact with crows. So I think we're going to start focusing more on fox next year and how we can better deter them from the nests.
Thank you.
Ian, did you have questions?
Yeah, it looks like you fence off the nest. Would it be possible to put a net over the top?
There is a net.
Okay. So that would work for the crows, it seems like.
Yep.
A lot of times.
Except for, and it usually works for the fox as well. So we have to probably dig deeper trenches.
Okay. It was funny because the crows and foxes they're cute animals, but agricultural pests too. So I understand how clever they can be at getting what they're after. No, thanks. It sounds good. It'd be very nice to see that number get up. 1.05 is,
a little bit higher.
Better than one or less.
Yep.
But yeah, thanks for the presentation. I found it very educational, and I wish you great success next year.
Thank you. I will just add that the exclosures are also give and take, because the crows will sit on top of the exclosures waiting for them to hatch, just knowing that they're going to have a free meal the second that they leave the exclosure. So this year we made sure that whatever day that they were supposed to hatch, we kind of camped out for a little bit to make sure that all the chicks left the exclosure. We took it down and right away, so that the crows couldn't be like, oh, there's the exclosure, where's my chicks?
So it sounds like your job's a day at the beach.
Yeah.
David, did you have any questions or comments?
I do not, thank you.
Okay. And Montauk, was this the first time they found a pair in Montauk?
It is. I do think that was because of the FIMP project, where before there wasn't much beach for them to nest at. So now that there's more beach, it's a much more attractive nesting spot. So definitely next year we're going to get out there early and make sure that if there's anything there, we know about it.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Samantha. Appreciate it. And Emily, thank you for your attention to this. This is important.
I want to add real quickly.
Sure, Kim.
Samantha, you did a great job. Not only are they on the beach all summer and spring, but they do a tremendous public education outreach with the schools. And we've worked with all different Amagants at East Hampton and Springs. Springs one year went on to do a musical about feeding ducks and things like that. So
was that the fourth grade opera? Did they do the fourth grade opera about the plover?
And then the magnets you got, we had a contest with the schools to do signs for protecting the birds, and that was one of the winning posters. So we made it into a magnet, sort of cute. But tremendous amount of outreach, and the teachers really appreciate it because it's science, education, and art all together, so they do a lot of activities together. So just want to give a shout out that, oh, and you guys took them on a tour on the beach too, didn't you?
Yep, we had there's a bird club at East Hampton. They didn't do it this year, but last year they, the bird club came to the beach and I showed them one of our nests that hadn't hatched. And then we actually just had a nest hatched a few days before. So we went to that site at Indian Wells as well. And they were able to see the chicks from afar. So that was pretty cool.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So those are our topics for today. And we can now move on to liaison report. Tom?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I'll start off with the Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee. We'll be meeting next Monday, the 8th at 6:30 p.m. at the Amagansett School Library. IT, just want to bring to the public's attention that one of the areas we're looking to target next year with OpenGov is special events. If any kind of prior applicants to special events have challenges they face with applications or concerns with OpenGov, please do feel free to reach out to my office and we can incorporate any advice you give us there into what the OpenGov rollout is. Human Services, we just had the Suffolk County Office for the Aging Monitor Review done for our Human Services Department for Seniors. We got excellent feedback from them, so thank you to the staff there for cooperating and providing that service. September Wellness 60+ Activity Club Calendar is now available. Just a notice to users, it is now two-sided due to the increase in activities. We couldn't get everything on one page, so we've separated into an exercise program and club activities. So it's a larger font, making it easier for everyone to read. Just a few things going on, just a call to attention. We're beginning the Wellness 60+ program at Ashwog Hall Series in September with the first class September 24th at 1 p.m. That's going to be an osteoporosis prevention. For anyone looking for more information, feel free to reach out to Joelle, the Senior Citizen Club leader, at 631-329-6939. We also have going on this week the East Hampton Health Club Care Foundation. They have a health fair scheduled at St. Luke's Hall from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the following dates: October 3rd, November 7th, December 5th, January 9th, February 6th, and March 6th. The Human Services Department will be represented at each event. Fire Marshal Office, we met last week with Star Tree Consultants, and we did a walkthrough of some of the town properties. I'll bring that feedback to the board in a meeting tomorrow. Sanitation Department, I just want to thank all our sanitation workers. While many of us had the day off yesterday, our recycling centers were up and running very well, and thank you to everyone who was there making that happen. ADU implementation, Ian, thank you for the presentation today. I thought that was excellent. The goal is for us to have the proposed code changes for the agenda for next week. They're currently with the attorney's office, so we'll be looking to get that out for next week. Then we have public safety. I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Lieutenant Toya, who did an excellent job, I thought, coordinating the event in Amagansett for Metallica last week. That was a huge undertaking with relatively little disruption. I do understand there was some disruption here and there for people. It was a big event, but great job to him for coordinating that without anything going wrong. Disabilities Advisory Board, next meeting is Friday, September 19th at 2 p.m. Anti-Bias Task Force, next meeting is Wednesday, September 10th at 4 p.m. The Arts Council Committee will be meeting Monday, September 15th at 5 p.m. The Business Committee will be meeting Wednesday, September 17th at 2 p.m. Emergency preparedness, I did a presentation over the weekend to the Barnes Landing Association, got some excellent feedback from them for what their concerns are, largely around how to manage fire risk on their properties, which is a presentation we'll be delivering this month with Natural Resources and the Fire Marshal's Office. And then we will also have a meeting of the Emergency Preparedness Committee September 25th at 11 a.m. And lastly, we have Tick Control Committee will be meeting Friday, September 19th at 4 p.m. Thank you.
Great, thank you. David?
Yes, I'll save everything for next week if you don't mind, Madam Supervisor. But the main thing I want to let everyone know and say to everyone is today's the first day of school. for East Hampton School District and the rest of the school districts, including Springs, will go back to school tomorrow. I wish all the kids and the parents all the best in the upcoming school year. But even more importantly, I think it's upon the residents to drive safely right now. School's in session. You have some young kids who have never been on a school bus before. They're going to be waiting out there in the morning or coming in the evening times or going on the sidewalks. So I think it's very important for us is to continue the public safety. Slow down, please, particularly around school zones. Slow down where you know that kids are, because they're going to be out and about on their school day. If we do that all together as a community, our kids will be very safe and they'll have a very productive school year, and they'll come back and be in this seat eventually. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David. Ian?
Yeah, just a very brief report. I want to welcome on Monday, September 8th, Mark Morgan Perez will start as the Director of Housing, and really excited to have him there. The team in the Housing Department has done a great job while we've looked for a new director. Mark brings a ton of experience and I think comes at an exciting and necessary time to sort of do all we can for affordable housing. We spoke about it today. There'll be something on the agenda next week. It's been a frequent thing, but I just want to extend a very warm welcome and let everybody know that there will be a new director starting on Monday, Mark Morgan Perez. Property Management Committee meeting was canceled last month, fairly last minute. I apologize for that, but there was some illness and people were unavailable that were key to that discussion. So we decided to postpone. I know that there was a lot of public interest. I reached out to some people who I thought were going to attend, who will be at the next meeting, which is September 17th. We'll address a number of issues. The agenda is not released yet, but the main topic will be the 66 Main Street in Waynescott, the Osborne homestead. And I've received a few concerns about, well, interest generally in the management plan for that property, but also concerns about the condition of the main structure. I just want to let everybody know, and I think I've said this before, that we are getting an estimate for what it would take to make that the main house watertight and preserve the exterior, at least in the short term, to make sure it doesn't deteriorate at all. But look forward to seeing anybody who wants to attend. That's September 17th. For the Property Management Committee, that'll be held in this room. Ag Advisory, who missed the last couple of months based on the busy season for farmers, will be held on next Thursday, September 11th in Suite 111A, Pantago Place, at 5 p.m. And that's all I have.
Great. So I was just going to go over the East Hampton Town Police Department weekend activity. This is Friday through 6 a.m. Monday. They were 262 calls for service, 4 total arrests, 31 residential noise complaints, 3 commercial noise complaints with no violations issued. They were all under the dB limit. 9 accidents, 22 aided cases, 9 town ordinance summonses were issued, and then we had our supplementary shift activity that was working as well. I want to let folks know I got an email on Friday from our government folks at PSD&G. They're going to be resuming work along Route 114. Night work will resume on 114 in East Hampton as we complete trenching. Cable pulling and splicing will follow. They will be sending a robocall to those customers along 114 or properties that back up to it, southeast of Stephen Hans Path, to let them know that they're restarting the work. Thursday's meeting, I'm going to have a resolution on to authorize us to apply for the Long Island Forward Housing Program. That's their technical assistance program. I had talked about that in July after meeting with the folks from Empire Development Corp. And this is for hopefully market studies, traffic studies, and they offer real estate development consulting services. And this is for the properties for the moderate income that we're doing at 776 and 780 Route 114. So we're hoping that funding will come through. And because yesterday was a holiday, our East Hampton Sag Harbor CAC meeting is going to be Monday, September 8th. The room is going to be taken because the trustees meet on the second Monday of the month. So if the weather's good, we're going to be at the picnic tables here outside Town Hall. Otherwise, we're going to be on Zoom. We'll post that on the website so folks know where the meeting's taking place. And that's what I have for my liaison report. And we now have some resolutions to take care of.
I will start off with 2025-1166. This is for the Jackson Pollock Painting Workshop for the 60-plus community at the Senior Center. This is a cost to the town not to exceed for $100.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
2025-1167 is to authorize payment for Verizon 2024 invoice. This is in the amount of $36.02 for human services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
2025-1168 is to approve various special events for June and July 2025. This is for Surf Lodge, permit number 5 of 6. That was for August 23rd from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Again, for permit 6 of 6 for the Surf Lodge. This was for August 30th from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Then we had the Springs Fire Department Great Bunnock Foot Race, which took place this weekend from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Then we have the Walk on Water taking place on the 5th of September at Ditch Plains. This is from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. and also on Saturday the 6th at 8 a.m. 2:30 p.m. And then lastly, we have the Montauk Seafood Festival, which will be taking place on Montauk Green. This is on the 6th of September, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. with setup beginning on the 4th at 9 a.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm proud to offer Resolution 2025-1169, appoint seasonal employee in the Recreation Department, Cody Ortega, effective September 3rd, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 1170 is authorize employee training for Aquaculture Department to go to the, for Lucy Massey and Ava Kiss, authorized to go to the Milford Michael Algae Cultural Workshop September 9th and 10th. Financial impact is $1,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 1171 CPF budget modification for land acquisition. This is where we're moving the amount of $16 million for appropriated unreserved surplus to increase the expenditure line for the CPF, and this was for the Mile Hill Road purchase.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 1172 is asbestos professional services at 20 Springs Fireplace Road, where they have a proposal dated 1825 for Silver Wolf Environmental. Total estimate is not to exceed $4,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 1173 to accept a donation of a memorial bench, a gift from Gabriella Gallier, who would like to donate a memorial bench as a gift to the town of East Hampton in memory of Ronald Walker, to be placed at the Rick Del Mastro Park, 378 Montauk Highway. The placement of the donate bench will be coordinated with the Buildings and Grounds. Resolved that the town board hereby gratefully accepts the donation by Gabriella Gallier to the town of East Hampton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 1174 is approved change order number 13 for the Montauk Playhouse. This is for the west entrance door and pool equipment room door at an amount of $8,214.69.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 1175 is a water quality grant extension for Fort Pond. I think it should read partners. So we'll amend that to read partners in the title, LLC. This is for a wastewater treatment improvement funding award, and this is a 1-year extension.
Second as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1176, this is a provisional appointment to planner for Aaron Zilberman with an annual salary of $57,013.14 for a 35-hour work week, retroactive to September 2nd, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1177, this is to amend Resolution 2025-1148 for the capital project in the Lamb Building. This is to correct the contract that Milburn Flooring is under. They're actually under the New York State Office of General Services contract rather than the Suffolk County contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1178, this is to authorize payment VHB Engineering for survey and landscaping in the amount of $2,996.88.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 1179, this is to retain Gary Ben surveying for Cantwell Court subdivision. He provided a quote at $800 per lot for 16 lots in a total amount not to exceed $12,800.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 2025-1180, this is for the police department fingerprint reimbursement, and David Allen shall be reimbursed $89.25 upon properly submitted voucher.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
1181 is to authorize a payment of a previous year invoice. This is for, believe it was Marine Patrol, for the Police Department, Marine Patrol, 2024 invoice from Optimum in the amount of $52.19.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then I have a resolution to, it's ID number 33356, and this is to schedule a special meeting for Thursday, September 4th at 4 PM for the purpose of holding an executive session to discuss personnel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to go into exec session?
I'll make a motion to go on exec session for CPF, personnel, public safety, litigation, and advice of counsel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and thank you, LTV.